There is so much effort into being couth and not saying what needs to be said with this particular room description. Just give it a butthole, guys. It's okay. The Magic School Bus did it. You can do it. Just say the word. All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back. I'm the referee, Connor McCloskey, and here we talk about 5e reviews and 5e adventure design. And today we have a special episode because this is Dungeon Jam week. And for those of you who don't know, Dungeon Jam is an event put on each year by multiple YouTube channels, mostly hosted by Misty Steps YouTube channel and the Mystic Arts. And the idea here is that this community of D&D YouTubers share free dungeons with their communities and with each other's communities and make it a community event for everyone to participate in. So in honor of that, this week we are talking about 5-room dungeons. And for those of you who might not know what a 5-room dungeon setup is, it has 5 parts for the 5 rooms, as you might imagine. There is generally a puzzle or some sort of guardian at the entrance that explains why the dungeon has not already been looted, a puzzle or some other sort of problem to solve, a setback that is sort of the low ebb of the adventure for the adventurers to try and overcome, a climax to the adventure, a either mini boss fight or a boss fight of this small arc, and of course includes a reward for all of the efforts that the players have put in. So in this case, we are going to be talking about a 5-room adventure called The Big Mouth, which comes from the appropriately named 5-room adventure zine. This is issue number 6. It is written by Christian Zeuch and is published by Role Playing Tips Publishing, who are one of the main purveyors of 5-room dungeons. Now, this adventure is 5-ish rooms. Some of them are a little bit big, might be considered a little bit more than a room, but they are 5 adventuring locations over the course of 46 pages, which is a lot of pages, and it feels like a lot of pages when you're reading through the adventure. A forgotten prophecy, only known to a few sages, claims that an immense whale called Leviathan roams the seas, feeding on wealth, swallowing merchant ships to satiate its colossal hunger. Also known as Blackening Sea or Last Sight, this legendary whale slaps its flukes against any vessels unlucky enough to be in its path and then eats the wrecked pieces. It does so until it is satisfied, then retreats home to a huge underwater cave, hibernating there for decades or even centuries. Leviathan wakes when its hunger grows too strong, leaving its cave and setting out on a quest to meet its needs. Over time, the few who have survived told the tales of their meeting with Blackening Sea, but people could not believe such stories. It became a myth, a story told to scare sailors, taken more as joke than anything else. However, the myth is real. The time has come for Leviathan to wake again. Feeding season has begun. So this is a very classic feeling swallowed by a whale adventure. It has everything that you might expect it to have being swallowed by a whale. It has treasure, it has monsters inside the whale, it has maps of the different parts throughout the whale as you go through it. And the maps themselves are pretty good. It is very linear, as you might expect. There is one larger section, the stomach, where you can move around and explore quite a bit and has sort of a secondary room off of it. But overall, a pretty linear adventure, and this is one of the common complaints of 5-room dungeons, is that if you don't make them a loop, then they tend to be pretty linear. Right off the bat in this adventure, there is a cool decision to make in the beginning where you can decide what ship you're going to take to the site where you're going to take on this whale or this myth that has risen from the sea, and how exactly you interact with the whale, how you end up inside of it, and also how the finale of how you escape. It sort of depends on what of those initial choices the party makes. In general, when it comes to the adventure itself, there's some good small faction play. There are some other survivors you can find inside the whale as you go. With the formatting and layout, there are quite a few column breaks on pages. There are page breaks across the spread, and then there are also quite a few spread breaks where you have to flip pages in between as part of a single room. And the area descriptions are evocative. They set a great mood. It hits all of the high points that you would expect for an adventure of going through this whale that eats treasure. Unfortunately, the reason it's so many pages is that a lot of these area descriptions are very, very long. And in my opinion, that's at least because they are also very mechanical in their nature. So for example, let's look at this rocks section as we are going down the gullet of the whale. So this is in the esophagus. You've left the mouth. You're on your way to the stomach room, and this is just subheading rocks. These calcified hard objects formed within Leviathan's esophagus over the centuries and present great danger to the party. We probably don't need that. Every round, the PCs will be pushed towards such objects, which they can try to avoid. On the boat, only the rowing character needs to make the saving throw. Swimming characters must make it individually. At initiative count 10, the characters need to succeed on a DC 13 dexterity saving throw or take 4 1d8 bludgeoning damage. The rocks have an AC of 15 with 20 hit points and are immune to psychic and poison damage. If a rock is destroyed before the initiative count of 10, the party can avoid the saving throw on that round. That just seems like a lot for what are basically, gross pearls stuck in this thing's throat. It probably doesn't need to be that long. We don't need to understand that it's dangerous. We get that part. And we probably don't need that many mechanics for how to adjudicate it. Also, you heard it a little bit there with dexterity saves, but throughout this adventure, anytime they are navigating, moving through things, swimming through things, trying to row the boat, there are a ton of strength checks. Now, usually I would be in favor of having more strength checks and giving the strength-based characters that sort of boost that they might need to be important in adventure, but there are a lot of them in this adventure. If you're going to climb around the stomach, strength checks constantly. Rowing a boat through the intestines, you got the boat, but you're making strength checks over and over again along the way. It's just too many strength checks. And it goes with the theme of just having too many mechanics and checks in general, too much to be ordered to smoothly adjudicate the rooms and make them more simple. The monsters are good and thematic. There's some, intestinal worms, there's different parasites and other gross things that you run into within the whale, and that's not even counting the other survivors that are, again, sort of a faction politics that you might have to deal with. Unfortunately, when it comes to the monsters, there's a ton of advice for how to adjust all of the different encounters and all of their stat blocks for a range of different levels, and we just don't need that for a 5-room dungeon. Just pick a level and stick with it, right? Just either write to a level or write and then choose a level afterward. There are a lot of designers that do that as well, but either or, just grab one and stick to it. You don't need to make it so these 5 rooms, they're not so special that they need to be applicable to every level of every adventure. There is only one magic item, which is what the players are here to get. It's part of the reason they're going into the whale in the first place. So for a quick 5-room dungeon, if it is actually quick, only having one magic item, it's not that big a deal. There's some other good coin-based treasure, which is sort of thematic for a whale that eats treasure. That makes sense. It would be cool if there were some sort of doubloons with some history of some ancient nation or something like that, but that's not in this one. And then at the end of the final room, we have the exit, which is just so hilarious to me because there is so much effort into being couth and not saying what needs to be said with this particular room description. So again, the exit. The winding intestine ends in a wall that has an AC 13 and is immune to poison and psychic damage. Hilarious. Once 10 damage is dealt to the wall, Leviathan will swim upwards on a steep incline. Anyone in the corridor will fall to the wall, taking half the normal falling damage based on the distance they were from the wall, because the guts are not as hard as the regular ground. When the wall suffers 50 damage, it will open for 3 rounds and water will start flooding the intestines. Characters must make a successful DC 12 strength athletics check to swim through the hole against the current. A creature can make 1 roll each round until muscle action closes the hole again. Just give it a butthole, guys. It's okay. The Magic School Bus did it. You can do it. Just say the word anus. It's all right. It's when you're going into the whale, the expectation is how you're going to get out of the whale unless you're going to fight your way out the side or something like that. The way it's danced around is just hilarious to me. Overall, it's okay, but I would end up cutting or simplifying a bunch of the mechanics, especially for what should be a pretty short 5-room dungeon. Should be, one session, or really less than 1 session, maybe 1 session including all the travel to and from the whale. And to have 23 full letter-size pages to represent this adventure is just silly. So I'm going to give this 6 stars, which is, I would probably run it with some pretty significant rework, which would just be simplifying a ton of it. So this brings us to a discussion of 5-room dungeons in general. Some people swear by them, some people can't stand them. For the most part, your players won't notice whether or not something is a 5-room dungeon because the elements of the 5-room dungeon should probably be in your adventure no matter how many rooms it is. As for the actual 5 rooms, personally, I think that's too short. I think it should probably be closer to 10 rooms, and that's mainly because humans can hold in their mind at any given time between 5 and 9 elements. So once you stretch to that 9 or beyond that 9, you're getting a sense of wonder where folks are forgetting where they were before, and as they're exploring, sort of losing track of which rooms they've been to. And the easiest way to do this, or any number of rooms, is to use that 5-room structure, but also flesh it out with other types of rooms, right? We want all of those other rooms to also be interesting, but it doesn't have to just be 5 rooms. Personally, I like to punch up my 5-room dungeons, and honestly all of my dungeons, with something called moment-based design by a designer named Zeuch Victory, who writes a lot for Shadow Dark. His adventures are fantastic. I highly recommend you check them out. The idea of moment-based design is that when we show up at the game table, we have certain expectations for what this adventure is going to present to us, right? We have things like we're expecting to run away from the boulder, or whatever the equivalent might be, or avoid the dart trap, or whatever the equivalent might be for your adventure. So Zeuch has his own personal list of these moments that he has in his dungeons when he builds them, and a lot of them are very sort of death trap dungeon based, a lot of gauntlets, a lot of competition dungeons for running in tournaments. But the basic idea is that each room and each significant monster gets some sort of moment meeting one of those expectations attached to it as well. And the great part about this is you can expand either the existing list of moments or build out your own list of moments that you want your game to have, and as you consume other media or see other things that inspire you, grab the generic idea of that sort of moment and put it in your list that you can then use later to punch up your 5-room dungeon or any other type of dungeon. And personally, my list just keeps growing and growing as I add design elements from people like Hankrin Furnau, Kelsey Dion, Joseph R. Lewis, and honestly from movies or directors or video games that I like. So this year, in honor of Dungeon Jam, I'm going to put a link below to my own 5-room adventure, and this 5-room dungeon is called Grimbough. It is based on a competition entry for a 5-room 1-spread dungeon, and the other limiting factor here was that it had to be 650 words or fewer. So if you go to the link below, you can see my own single spread 5-room 650 word dungeon that I punched up using moment-based design. And the moments that I ended up using based on rolling on my own random table were a Lego video game or God of War or Knack-like simple interactive switch-based door, a hint of the boss's plan, something to climb, an eerie or liminal space, and one easy board game mechanic. And that is that you can't attack your opponent until you defeat all their monsters. So in this instance, you can't damage the boss until you slay all the minions, right? They are absorbing the damage until they are slain. So take a look at that adventure, turn the tables, and leave a review on my adventure in the comments below. What would you rate my adventure? What would you change about it? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? How do you think being 5 rooms either hurt it or maybe helped it? And also, don't forget to check out all the other videos in the Dungeon Jam playlist, learn about a bunch of new creators you may not have seen before, and check out the dungeons they created as part of this project as well. If you found this useful, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any recommendations for third-party adventures that you think I ought to check out, please also put one of those in the comments as well. Until then, I've been your referee, Connor McCloskey, and that's today's game. Thanks, guys.